Tevia, thanks so much for joining me and coming on the School of You podcast. I really, really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to have you as a friend in my father's circle and be able to connect with you more and understand that you're not just any sort of guy living in Vietnam. You're a CEO and a practitioner of the martial arts Qi Gong. And ever since learning about Qi Gong from being in Vietnam, I've found it to be such an interesting practice. And I'm so excited to learn about that with you today and share that with the world today, because it's such an interesting practice in the way that it affects the mind and body, but also the spirit. You're the owner of White Tiger Qi Gong. And I would love to learn, how did that even become, but also where did Qi Gong even come up in the first place? But I really appreciate you coming on today. So it's going to be an amazing little chat that we have here today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Well, Qi Gong started over 5,000 years ago. It started with the Wu people. The Wu people were a tribal people. Picture thousands of years ago, these people sitting around a fire, drumming and dancing and going into these deep trances and doing these animal dances. And that was the beginning of Qigong. It was very shamanic. It was very intense. You can imagine how intense that must be, getting into those trances. They felt so much energy from it. It was so energizing. And that was the birth of Qigong. Later, it was more formalized. Those dances became more ritualized. And then a man named Hua Tuo, he was a Chinese medicine physician, he started developing Qigong with Chinese medicine principles, such as the meridians, the 5 elements, and he created what's called the 5 animal Qigong, which was a medical Qigong form over 2,000 years ago. And so that's essentially the evolution from that point. Now, to here today, it has gone through so many twists and turns, and there's over 3,000 kinds of Qigong that are documented that we know of. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Gosh. But you've implemented a few into White Tiger, correct?
So I've studied over 50 different kinds, 50, over 50 different styles, systems of Qigong. And I found essentially 3 extremely effective systems of Qigong that you can get tangible results immediately from, and that can be taught on a wide basis. And so that is how I first started creating White Tiger Qigong, based on those 3 systems of Qigong that I found to be most effective.
I'd love to dive into those 3 systems, but before even doing so, how did you even get the interest in Qigong? Why is it Qigong such an important part to you in your life?
I was born with chronic illness, and I had chronic sinus infections, chronic parasites, autoimmune disorders, you name it, I had it. My sister was born with pneumonia. My brother was born with rickets. I had colon cancer in my family, heart disease. I was pretty much born with 3 strikes against me. So my parents wanted to break the chain. Didn't want me to be in hospitals with doctors on medication my whole life. So they got me into Qigong when I was 7.
They got you into Qigong?
Yep.
Oh, so they knew about it before you.
My father did Qigong before I was born.
But he was not a master at it,
No, he had his own business. So he introduced me to a Qigong master that took me under his wing.
Wow.
And so that was my introduction to Qigong. Fast forward later, I was in a brutal car accident when I was a teenager. Doctors told me I had to have surgery on my spine. And my master said, don't do that surgery yet. Try this little Qigong exercise. So he gave me this simple movement called the wave. And I healed my spine with that Qigong. And now I'd say my spine is better than most people half my age.
Just because of a movement.
Because of the Qigong. So that's why I'm such a big proponent of this Qigong.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. It's all around the world, you hear about things of people being able to heal themselves with these, of course, the first world tools that we have of science. But now the people that were doing this 5,000 years ago, they also had to figure out a way to heal themselves. And they also were, the Chinese especially, really, they had such profound systems to be able to do that. But it's so interesting that kind of people think that it's kind of woo woo to look at health in a way that you can actually just heal yourself without using the use of science. It's so interesting. But when we look at with you were introduced to Qigong at 7 years old, and then you had a car accident, and then you just were like, after getting this teaching from your master, you were just like, I'm all in on this. Like, this is going to be the coolest thing that I want to pour into. Where did this drive to even start the White Tiger?
Well, as part of my training, I went to China. I worked in a clinic, a Qigong clinic in Guangdong province. And the first person I worked with was dying of liver cancer. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't smile. And within a few days of doing the Qigong, he was able to eat, he was able to sleep, he was able to smile. And he invited me into his home and treated me like a family member. And it was at that moment in time that I knew this is what I want to do the rest of my life.
Wow.
To be there with someone who's suffering and to be able to show them a pathway, which I use to emerge from my own suffering, and to just share that, it was so enriching. It was such a profound experience that really was rewarding on the deepest levels. And so I knew this is what I want to do at that point. But like you mentioned, there is that connotation of the woo-woo magical Qigong, which interfered with being able to teach it. So what I did is go on a quest on how we could validate it through science. So I started reaching out to different science experts, such as anatomy experts, sports science experts, fascia experts, neuroscientists. And that became the cornerstone of White Tiger Qigong system. It's scientifically validated.
Wow. That's so amazing. I love to hear the background about all of these interesting factors where it comes into how Qigong is such a powerful instrument to manifest the things that you really want, because you have a way to now use your mind, your body, and your soul to create harmony between just like all areas of your life. Because once you can master this body of yours, you can create everything that you want. Do you believe that it all starts with the body if you really want to create change in your life?
So in the Taoist system, they believe the spirit and the body are intrinsically connected. There's no separation. So if you have illness in the spirit, you have illness in the body. If you have illness in the body, you have illness in the spirit. So they don't separate those two. So what do I mean by spirit? Well, the most simple term I can find is your conscious awareness. You have this conscious awareness that you're alive and that you inhabit this body, this physical body. Okay. But we're not separated, because you feel exactly what your hand feels when you touch something, right? That goes right to your conscious awareness. Now, when you go through an emotion or emotional trauma, that has an impact on the physical body.
Yeah, through the sensations.
Well, when we look at the tissue of the body and the nervous system, everything that you go through has an impact. So if you hear a siren, for an example, what do? You go on high alert, your heart starts pumping faster, your breathing increases, and you probably have tension in your body if you hear a loud siren near you. It's designed to do that. That's the way they design those, to stimulate your nervous system, to get you in a hyper-aware state. Okay? Now, if you're in a dangerous car ride, or you're like near miss in a car accident, you're going to brace yourself. And when you brace yourself, that is the body's reaction to what's happening with your surroundings. So you have a physical impact. Now, when you go through an emotional trauma, deep fear or abuse, this has a direct impact on the physical body. And so people develop kinks in their tissue inside their body. They develop postural issues. And they actually have interesting new research has shown there's a direct correlation between your posture and your self-perception, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah, posture is huge. I've been diving into the study of NLP. You're familiar with that? Yeah, it's so fascinating, especially when we look at what anchors are
Mhm.
and understanding how anchors are affecting the state of being just with the simple effect of the kinesthetic, the
Mhm.
visual or auditory sensations that go on. And it's fascinating because you can trigger a certain emotion or a feeling because of these, just like the sirens as well. And when you look at that, it's like those are the kind of things that are holding us back or even bringing us forward. But to kind of recollect that, it's you're ultimately saying that if you want to just change your life, you got to move your body.
Yeah. So moving your body, number one, when you do different types of movement, you're stimulating different regions of the brain,
Hmm.
especially when you engage in new types of movement. And so in neuroscience, they say what fires together wires together. So you create these new neural connections, new neural pathways. And Qigong, in particular White Tiger Qi Gong, we have a variety of different movements, but the movements also are designed to stimulate the different organs through twisting. So look at the organs like a water balloon that reside inside of your body.
Yep.
And if your body is tight and tense all the time, those balloons, which are your organs, are going to become solidified there and locked in, and circulation can't get to it. And then your body becomes more plastic and rigid.
Yeah.
We want to have the bamboo body, flexible and supple yet strong and resilient,
Mm-hmm.
elastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we do with this Qigong is we develop that bamboo body by keeping this elasticity in the body. We wring out the organs. Like, so when you go through a deep twist, for example, in
Yeah.
your lower back, you're massaging the kidneys.
Yeah.
And that's going to bring circulation and stimulation to the fascia that encapsulates. And fascia, if you don't know what fascia is, it's a spidery, gluey, fibrous web just underneath the skin. It wraps around the organs, wraps around the bones, and becomes the bone itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hardest part of the fascia. And so that connects everything. And the fascia, each organ is encapsulated by a bag of fascia called the visceral fascia.
Mm-hmm.
And so that fascia can become tight. And if your organs are tight, you are going to feel pressure and stress, because when the organs are stressed, you feel stressed.
Mm.
And so what we do with the Qigong is we move the organs around in the body, and we move that fascia, make it more malleable so the organs can hang off of the spine the way they're designed to, instead of being squished and pressed.
It's like a comfortable position that's not fixated in the body. That's also, like you said, elastic.
Yeah.
I think that's such a powerful thing because you'd also have to have an elastic mind as well, being able to be like a sponge. I've always, that was one thing that really resonated me with when I was on my growth journey, is being a sponge when coming to understand different methods, different questionings of your life. And I really think that when I focus on, when I try to create change, it all comes down to decisions. Decisions ultimately kind of are the ways that you move forward. And these are based on beliefs and behaviors that are from our past, and come to experience them and think of them as our life situation. And the way that I want to kind of like tie this into what Qigong is, or I mean, at least try to figure out if there's a correlation here with Qigong, because we use the body to create change. It's like one of the things that was on my journey when I first began to create who I am today. I first started working out and create movement in my body and feel that posture, right? The different posture and the state. I find that, especially when we look at the body, when we want to make decisions, there has to do with things that are in the breath, in where is there tension in our body, and different feelings that are going on based on the things that we think about, right? Because there's the correlation between thought and feeling. When we have to make decisions, how can you use Qigong or just the movements of body to be able to kind of bring yourself out of the kind of autopilot that we're used to on a day-to-day basis? Because it's mostly when we want to change, when we want to make high impactful decisions, we need to be able to come out of that autopilot. and just create a conscious decision that is impactful, but also not being into the fear. Because the fear has to do with past situations and anxieties. There's a lot of situations that have to go on with making these impactful decisions. And when we use the body and when we see like, okay, maybe there's a fault in my body right now. Maybe that's telling me because my breath is really fast paced. Maybe I'm trying to make a decision when my posture is like slanted and it's not confident, right? So how are you going to make a decision when you're not confident? And so this is like, when you look at Qigong, these are ways, again, to be elastic with your body. And I'm just trying to figure out how there would be to be able to not be so on autopilot, right? And to be more conscious. Is there a way that Qigong teaches to be more conscious in your day-to-day life?
Absolutely. So we have two different types of general awareness. You have proprioceptive awareness and you have interoceptive awareness. Interoceptive awareness is being aware of what's happening within the internal body. Proprioceptive awareness, as a general definition, is being aware of where your body is in space, the space around you, in relationship to, say, objects and your own part of your other parts of your body. Mm-hmm. So within Qigong, we exercise both interoceptive awareness and proprioceptive awareness. And that brings you truly into the moment because you're truly aware of where is my hand in space right now in relationship to my body, in relationship to the space around it, and then what's happening on the internal feelings of my body. Like, how does my heart feel? Can I tune into the beat of my heart? Mm-hmm. Can I feel the sensation of my lungs expand as I breathe in? Can I feel the sensation of my kidneys as I twist? Mm-hmm. So feeling those sensations truly brings you into the moment and out of the going into other thoughts and about other times and things that aren't even happening right now, going into the future. So by doing that daily, you create this mindful connection.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that is it's a one way to get to that. It's when you look at the connection between having a conscious thought, it's being able to have the tools and the resources to always go to. At the same time, I find that for me in my life, it's sometimes difficult to even want to do those things in the first place, even though, those things are actually going to be beneficial for me. And so it's like, there's this cycle that people get into where they want to change. They know they need to change. They even know the things that they should do to create super impactful decisions, to create a business, to move their body, to get in the shape that they want, to get into relationships that they want. But for some reason, we still don't. And there's actually something that I find that I was looking at your website, and the thing that you said inside of Qigong of what it does to you, it's like, when I'm over anxious, it relaxes me. When I'm angry, it calms my heart. When I'm fearful, it transforms into courage. And so it's really, really important to just remember that, yes, I don't have the motivation to want to do this right now. I don't have the courage or the self-esteem, whatever it could be. You have a lot of doubt, but putting yourself just into a situation, getting your body moving. Like, what is the first thing that someone could do just to kind of activate that system to kind of just get into a mode that is powerful? Is it a certain stance? I've heard of the 3-circle pose. That's something that I've done. I'm not sure if there's a thing that you could do. Maybe it's breathing, right? Just to get yourself into a state of out of that lack. Is there something that Qigong teaches inside of maybe White Tiger that you could just activate your system just really, really quickly to get you into a conscious state, to be reminded of yourself that you need to do?
Yeah, so it depends on which state you want to go into. Do you want to make yourself more alert and aware? Do you want to make yourself more calm and relaxed?
I see.
Because they have different approaches. So if I want to make myself more calm, I need to activate what we call the parasympathetic system.
Yeah.
And so that's in rest and digest as opposed to the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight.
Yep.
So in order to activate that, we need to relax. And in order to do that, we need to make the exhalation longer than the inhalation.
Mm-hmm.
And I sync the feeling and I go into interoceptive awareness, feeling how my breath is interacting with my body, and then feel myself allowing to melt all the tissue in my body to relax and feel the sinking energy going down. And we call it the lower dantian. That means the inside the lower belly, which is basically where your center of gravity is.
Mm-hmm.
It's where your reproductive organs are and your lower digestive system is.
Mm-hmm.
And so bringing the energy into this area, this region, and feeling that sensation. And sometimes you need to be able to move because in order to loosen up the tangles and knots of the tissue, we need to move that. And so that's what Qigong has, is these abilities to move what's called meridians, which are essentially channels that run throughout the body to the extremities and connect all the organs together. They're like, imagine they're like rivers that connects to the lakes and the oceans to move and circulate energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is how we can start to get into the feelings. So you can sense the breath coming in through your nose, in through your nostrils. And you sense that going down into your belly, how it's affecting you. And then as you breathe out, you feel the belly relax. You feel the air coming out of your nose. That's going to bring you into the moment right instantly because you're focusing on sensation, interoceptive awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And then intentionally make your breath longer than your inhalation, your exhalation longer than your inhalation. So now you have breath control. Mm-hmm. And breathe out through your nose and in through your nose. And this immediately will bring you into a more calm, relaxed state and bring you into the moment. Mm-hmm. Now, if I want to instigate a more hyper alert state, I will do something very different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. More or less probably fast breathing, right? More is strong breathing is one of the things that I've especially learned. There's a lot of, I learned inside of when I went to a Vipassana retreat, how impactful sensations are and the way that to tap into the subconscious is through the feelings and the sensations that are going on within our body. Is there anything that you look at when trying to manifest, right? When you look at, especially before you even created such a successful business, you were probably in a state of, I want to get this off the ground, I want to get this running. And, you'd have to put yourself into that high energy state quite a lot. There's probably times where there weren't situations where you were seeing results or, you're getting into expectation and sort of assumption. It's like kind of the entitlement feeling that a lot of entrepreneurs feel. And it's like when feeling the sensations, we want to put ourselves in the state, the feeling of already accomplishing it, right? That's how you can also, because before even having, you have to be that person who has the successful business, the feelings that you can feel, the state of being that is already the person that has already succeeded. This is what a lot of books around the manifestation and tapping into the subconscious and being able to really ultimately craft the life that you want. If it's money, if it's the relationships, if it's a successful business, being able to tap into the feeling, the sensations, how you're breathing, how you're acting on an everyday basis, all the habits, being able to just associate all of these great things with the lifestyle that you want.
Well, I'll give you a different perspective. How about that?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so I didn't come from the perspective of how can I run a successful business. I came from the perspective of what do I love to do? Mm-hmm. I love Qigong. I love to teach.
Yeah.
How can I make that my lifestyle where all I'm doing is teaching? Well, it has to sustain me. But what is going to drive me? I'm mission driven. Mm. I don't need any money. I have enough money. I could quit tomorrow and I'm fine. Mm-hmm. So I don't do this for the money. I do this for a mission. I believe we're living in a critical point in human history where we're coming into a very destructive time. You have wars increasing, you have environmental catastrophe, and we have a choice to make right now. We have to choose. Are we going to be part of that destruction, or are we going to be part of creation?
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe that this is the time that we need to come together as the human race to heal and to love and to protect the very earth that we have, that we were given as a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And so why do I do Qigong? Well, it's gotten me through everything. It's gotten me through the darkest of times, through the emotional roller coaster of life. And it's been there for me through thick and thin. And I've watched it be there for people dying of cancer, people dying of different diseases. And I've also seen it with world champion athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And so on both sides of the spectrum. So I see how powerful it is. And it's what I love to do. I always say to all my students, I'll be teaching the rest of my life as long as I have two hands and 2 feet. I'll be teaching Qigong. And even if I didn't, I'd probably still be teaching somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I'm rich or poor, I'll be teaching Qigong because it's what I love to do. So when I don't come from an objective of obtaining something for myself, but actually what can I give to people that they need? What can I offer that is needed on this earth? And this is the gift that I have, and this is what I know.
Mm-hmm.
So I come from that perspective of that. And I think if you're looking at it from the perspective of what do people need right now, and what are the gifts that you have and the passions that you have? Because what's important is that your passion, I think it's important what you're passionate about, what you do, because if you're not, you're going to get burned out and you're going to get sick of it. You can never do something. You could do something just for the money, but you're not going to feel rewarded in the end. Like when I was working with that man with cancer, liver cancer, and I watched him heal, and I was so rewarded by that feeling.
Yeah.
That it was priceless to me. And so I'm just feel very fortunate that it does reward you to do Qigong, because so many people want Qigong. And so, yes, but as you can see, I wear no jewelry. I don't own a car. I don't even own a bike. And I dress very simple and humble. And I'm a humble person. And I just like to do my Qigong a lot and be with my friends and family.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so my mission really is to reach 10% of the world. And why do I say 10%? Because that's a scientific number for a tipping point, because I want to make a massive shift in human consciousness. Because like I said, I believe we're going through a critical time in human history. And if we can make this massive shift, then we can shift the direction of the planet. And reaching 10%, some people say, oh, well, that's really ambitious, because that's my mission, actually. Not the money and not being successful because in a business, but to me, that is success, is reaching a huge amount of humanity. And that is the key metric for me for success. Mm-hmm. And when I talk to people, when I meet people who've done White Tiger Qi Gong, and I see the healing, and they tell me their stories, they share their stories about their incredible healing, that's the key metric of success for me. That's when it's all worth it for me. Yes, of course, we need to feed our families and feed ourselves and live a good life. But if you did something for money and you're doing dirty work for that money, like say doing some destructive practice where you're mining, like I knew a guy in the mining business for many years, and he just felt like crap because he was destroying really beautiful places and making money from it. He quit. He quit because he realized that's not what he wants to do. So I suggest for your audience, if they choose something that, number one, they're really passionate about, number two, that's going to do something positive for humanity, that is the key, in my opinion. And then when you can achieve those things, then that's success, right?
Mhm.
When you're doing, because I believe in you leave the planet better than when you came here. If we all had that attitude, that we would have paradise. If
Yeah.
if our great grandparents all had that attitude, we would be living in paradise right now. We
Yeah.
still have paradise, access to paradise, but we still have also very bad parts of the earth that need to be healed. So that's my 2 cents.
I love what you said there, and it's a strong mission to go behind, and that's seems like it's been deeply ingrained into who you are as a person, and that's something that you've like when I was asking you about how can you tap into your subconscious and manifest. It's not even about wanting; it's just about giving, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So it's not even about trying to get anything out of this world. Just be the go-giver. I read the book called The Go-Giver, and it was an amazing book. And the laws of giving, and the last one was to also know how to receive as well. And I think a lot of people are also like you were kind of referring to, is that they just want to get stuff. And yes, people do have to survive, and that's like one standpoint. It's like, you can have a passion to want to do something, but some people also act on their passion, but they're not knowing how to make money out of actually acting on their passion. And so this falls into being in burnout because of the business aspect of doing their passion. To say they're a Reiki healer or something of the sort, right? And they don't know how to start a business. They don't know how to make money out of it, even though they love healing. So that's just a aspect of it where they need to be able to put themselves in the state of just like, these are things that are also part of my passion. It's just, how can maybe it's just serve the world and you will just fall into place. Is that how it worked for you?
Well, I mean, you also have to look at not only what gifts do you have, what passions do you have, but what does the world need? And does the world need this? And so for me, when I first started teaching Qigong, and when I was studying Qigong in China, for example, when I was studying Qigong in China, I was living on rice noodles because I didn't have enough money even to get meat.
Mm.
And I was living in $150 a month apartments and living in squalor sometimes, just so I could have enough money to study. And then when I first started teaching Qigong uh, as what I did for a living, I barely made a living. I mean, I could barely make enough money to even pay my rent. And so I lived in third world countries, and I still continue to live in third world countries. I've maybe become addicted to third world countries, but so I was able to sustain myself that way. But what really changed is staying curious, always wanting to learn, and trying to learn every single day. So I found my friends who were able to reach a lot of people in whatever they did, whatever modality they had. And I learned their framework. Talk to them. What do you do? How did you do it? How did you start? How did you get here? And I read all the books they recommended me to read. And then a really good book I recommend to any of your audience members is not only my books, of course, White Tiger Qi Gong books, but Mastery by Robert Greene.
Oh, yeah.
Very good book. And that is how I put one of the instigating or motivating books for me to put together White Tiger Qi Gong.
Wow.
Because what he found is these different masters over time in different modalities. One of the common threads is they melded different passions that they had together, and they created something new. They were like frontiersmen or frontierswomen. So they were able to carve a new path. And so I have a passion for Qigong and for science, like sports science and neuroscience. So I melded those together, and I created something that nobody else had, White Tiger Qi Gong. And then I became passionate about education. How could I teach? So I reached out to Harvard University and Stanford University education experts, people with their PhDs in education. How can I become the best teacher I can? And I started putting that with my program. And then I have a very unique program because of that. So a scientifically validated Qigong program based on ancient Taoist Qigong that integrates cutting edge science, neuroscience, sports science, along with best educational practices.
Fascinating. It's just the such passion just created everything to come together.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there always was times that are struggling, but you were most definitely using Qigong at the time to also cultivate the high energy state, to keep learning and to keep growing. It's the practice that you were to be able to be so connected with that also gave you that drive. I mean, was there any time in your life that you were looking at Qigong, and even though you were trying to survive and learn, what was the motivation to even continue to learn during that time?
My master always said to me, you have to have a goal.
Yeah.
If you don't have a goal, and I think if you don't have a goal, then you're never going to get anywhere. You're going to be wandering, right? So my goal with Qigong was to heal myself. Then my goal became to heal the people I was working with, help them heal themselves. I don't actually heal them, but give them the tools to heal themselves. So I became passionate about each person I was working with, taking on their problems deeply and understanding how they can heal from it. And so becoming passionate and very interested in them and what they needed. And then I could understand, I felt that this would be the litmus test. If it could work for these people, then it could work for the masses, right? And so trying to figure out, I look at things like riddles that you have to solve. So I could reach, first I set a goal. How can I reach 100,000 people? I reached 100,000 people. How can I reach 500,000 people? I reached 500,000 people. How can I reach 1 million people? I reached 1 million people. So I set these goals and then I try to figure out how to get there. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I do is I look at what I want to my target and then I try to work backwards. How am I going to get there? Now my goal is 10%. I've reached several million people. And then so I looked at, say, 10% of the population. So what I did, I started researching models out there of people who've reached 10% of the world. I'll give you a perfect example that everybody's heard of. That's CrossFit. CrossFit's reached way more than 10% of the population of the world. And they started with one CrossFit box, whatever you call it. And they've reached more than 10% of the world. So if they could do it, so I looked at their model. And then I started, how can I apply that model with Qigong while keeping the integrity of the Qigong, keeping the quality? And so I started just looking at these different models. So what I do is I set my target and then I figure out how to get there. But if you always trying to figure out how you're going to get there before you even know where you're going, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And same thing. So with Qigong, like I knew I liked neuroscience. So I was like, how am I going to get there? Well, I got to talk to a neuroscientist and I got to have him look at my Qigong. Well, I love sports science. I got to talk to a sports scientist. So I started talking to them. How am I going to teach this the best I can? Well, why don't I just do what I did with Qigong? With Qigong, I've tried to find the best masters in the world I could possibly find. And I spared no ends to be able to get there. And I lived in squalor in order to study with some of these masters. And I figured, okay, now I want to study the best practices in education. So I'm going to hire the top people. I paid $500 an hour to study with these education experts. You know, no joke. It was really a lot of money, but I learned so much.
Yeah.
And how to apply that to our Qigong and how to become the best teacher that I could possibly become. Because I want to be the best version of myself that I can be.
Mastery.
Yes. Of all aspects that and I want to know what I'm blindsided to.
Yeah.
I want to know what I don't know. So I'm always staying curious, always curious. And going back to your conversation about success, I'll give you another kind of counterintuitive feeling. So people talk about success, right? One of the things that I do is I always remind myself, it can all be taken away tomorrow. You can lose it all tomorrow because the moment you become complacent, the moment you think you've reached success is the moment it can come crashing down. And I've seen so many people who've reached so-called success only to lose everything. So never believe you've reached success because that's when you're in the danger zone.
But isn't there's that double standard because you have to feel successful at the end of the day. You know, you want to feel like you actually did something that was worthy.
My successful metrics are, number one, are people getting healed from what they're doing, this practice? Right. What are those stories? Number two, how many people am I able to reach?
Right.
So for me, then I'll feel a sense of success when I reach 10% of the world. But I get these little micro successes with each person that
Yeah.
comes to me sharing their healing experience with the Qigong. But success goes into other aspects of your life, your personal life, your love life, your relationships with your family. I think success should be looked at as an all-around metric rather than a single thing, right? Because you have many areas of yourself, right? Relationships are so key. I've known people who've built very successful businesses and had terrible relationships, were complete failures in their relationships. Is that success? No.
Yeah.
I'd say, so how can you build a balanced life where you have success in multiple areas of your life at the same time? That's the key. Yeah.
Balance. Tevia,
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the time that you've given me today. And I know your daughter is waiting for you to play with her, and everything that you've shared with the world. This is just another way to get to the 10%. And I really think that the audience here at the School of You and the way that you can change the world is definitely going to happen. Already ChatGPT is noticing Qigong. So thank you so much for joining me today and giving your wisdom.
Thank you. And want to invite any of your audience members, if they want to come to Vietnam. We have a training in February, 5-animal Qigong master course, and an optional for those who are inspired to teach others. We have a teacher training after that is finished.
Amazing. Yes. I'll put the information in the bio, and
I'll give you a free ebook for all of your members.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Amazing.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Tevia.
Thank you. All right.